the Knicks just had a pretty glorious offseason by signing one of the top players in the market in Jalen Brunson. People talk about him being overpaid. And if I think that's ridiculous for people to say that personally. But
Glorious is
Yo, I'm crying. Yo, you thought no. You know that's you said that too loosely. Too loosely.
was it wrong? Was it wrong?
I don't know if I'm calling Jalen Brunson that free
Did you
agent
see him in
signing
playoffs?
making it ultimately a
He
glorious
averaged
offseason for
28
the
points per
Knicks.
game in the first round.
Listen, I'm
glorious,
not slant.
Glorious is a little strong. It's a little strong, just a little bit. It's a good signing, but glorious is crazy.
I'm with Riv. I'm with Riv.
In the midst of all the Knicks stuff going on, the big thing happening right now is that we are front runners to land Donovan Mitchell. Now, the question for this topic was going to be, does this make us a playoff lock? And I have a lot of things to say on this topic, so I'll just go first, and then we'll go back to the original scheduled programming of the order that we go in. This is pretty simple for me, but before I give my answer, you guys may know what it is. Let me just talk about the Knicks. Leon Rose's mission from the start was to be in this position, in this exact situation. When he first came to New York 2 years ago from CAA, his targets were Devin Booker, Cat, and Donovan Mitchell. The Timberwolves became good. The Suns became contenders. And Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz, they're imploding. So now Donovan Mitchell is available. Considering the trade package for Mitchell is going to be Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin, Deuce McBride, Cam Reddish, Quinn Grimes, a combination of those young players, and maybe 4 to 6 first-round picks. That's a hefty price. But for Donovan Mitchell, you pay that 100%. When I talked about Mitchell earlier in the season, I said he plateaued. Do I still believe in that? 100%. I don't know how much better Donovan Mitchell is getting from this point. I don't know that. But I was low on Mitchell coming to New York because I was under the belief we would have to give up star Jay Barrett for him. But that's not the case. I was under the belief we would maybe have to involve Julius Randle in a trade package. You're telling me the Knicks can have a starting lineup of Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson, and then have a bench of Derrick Rose. He didn't go anywhere. He's still here. Derrick Rose is still here. I want to keep Quentin Grimes, Isaiah Hartenstein, who is arguably the best backup big in the entire league. That's a solid 8-man rotation. Donovan Mitchell is a 25-year-old, 3-time All-Star who averaged 25 this past season, basically four rebounds, 5 assists per game, efficiency off the charts, career high in PER. And outside of this past season, he shot 40% on catch and shoot threes his entire career. So he can play off the ball too. He's better on ball, but he in those catch and shoot situations, he'll be more than fine. He's a proven playoff performer. He's right now currently 7th all time in points per game in the playoffs. He's had 2 playoff runs where he's averaged 30 plus points per game. And if you take out this past playoff run versus the Jazz, and we go look at the bubble one and the one the season previous to this one, in a 17-game sample size, he averaged 34, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 48% from the field, 46% from 3, 29.5 PER, which is superstar level. And in the playoffs with Mitchell, the Jazz's offensive rating was 124. Without, it's 112. Opponents outscored the Jazz by 8 points when he was off the floor. They outscored opponents by 5 when Mitchell was on. So all this talk about Mitchell's defense, the backcourt is going to be food, 2 6'1" point guards. Let me remind you, the Jazz's backcourt was 2 6'1" guards in Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, I can guarantee, is going to be better with the Knicks going forward from 25 and over than he was in his stint with Utah. I can guarantee Jalen Brunson is better than Mike Conley. I can guarantee R.J. Barrett is better than any wing defender the Jazz had. I can tell you Julius Randle is getting back to being energetic on the defensive side of the ball, being more efficient. And Mitchell Robinson, he's not Rudy Gobert, but he is a great defender in his own right and a great lob threat. At the end of the day, even with the Knicks defense being quote unquote poor, even though we were 11th in defensive rating this past season with a backcourt of Fournier and Kemba and Fournier and Burks, teams still have to outscore us on offense. On offensive, Brunson, Mitchell, RJ, Julius, and Mitch is a top 10 offense in the NBA. And our defense isn't going to be as bad as everybody likes to make it sound. Let me just give you guys these numbers. Teams with the bottom 20 defensive rating that made the playoffs this past season, 3 of them: Nets, Hawks, and Bulls. Teams with the bottom 20 offensive rating to make the playoffs this season, none. Offense matters more than defense. The Knicks won't be this horrid defensive team, and we will be significantly better on offense, a top 10 offense. Mitchell has led top 3 offenses in Utah routinely. They were just the best offense this past season. Are the Knicks a playoff lock? Absolutely. Are we better than the top teams like the Bucks, Celtics, Sixers? No. Miami, who knows? The drop-off might be steeper than we think. Are we better than the Bulls? Absolutely. Are we better than Atlanta? 100%. Are we better than the Toronto Raptors? Without a doubt.
Jesus
The
Christ.
Knicks are back. And when we get Donovan Mitchell, I want to hear the tune you guys start to sing. Because, Riff, Donovan Mitchell's been your guy. Cam Reddish is your guy. All of a sudden, they become New York Knicks. You become a traitor. Treason. I don't like it. I don't like it. Mitchell to the Knicks. It's happening. You better brace for it. Brace for the impact.
Before you go, I'm gonna let you stretch. I'm gonna let you loosen up. All I'm gonna say is, you said the Nets, you said the Hawks, you said the Bulls. They want to combine 2 games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Riff.
Oh my God. So for starters, big Donovan Mitchell guy. You know, I'm the biggest Donovan Mitchell guy on the show. You know,
No, for sure. You might be the biggest Donovan Mitchell guy on the
Not
planet.
anymore.
I've watched his career since Louisville. Great player.
Defensive test.
Word.
At Louisville.
If you guys get Donovan Mitchell, obviously it makes you guys way more competitive than what you were before. You know, it definitely puts you guys up in that, you know, in that stratosphere of playoff teams. Playoff lock? It's tough. Because you pretty much just named the tier of teams you will be in with. You will be in with the Hawks. You will be in with the Bulls. You will be in with Toronto. That's the tier of teams. You said Miami, they're better than y'all. But that tier of teams, that's the 4. The locks, I think we all agree, Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, the Bucks. Philly. Those are the 4. So the next group is the Hawks, the Knicks. If they get Donovan Mitchell, they got to actually get the guy. If they get Donovan Mitchell, Toronto, and then Chicago. So those are the next group of guys. You mentioned
Cavaliers.
Yeah, Cavaliers. But
I was just about to bring them up, but I was going for my turn.
Yeah,
My
Cavaliers
bad,
cool too. But the Knicks have a lot of youth that they can trade. You guys have a lot of young talent. You guys have one of the deepest young talented teams in the league. This spiel on you threw a lot of numbers. You threw a lot of fancy, kinky, cute little analytic numbers. They were really dope. You didn't mention in the bubble Donovan Mitchell blew a 3-1 lead. You just failed to mention that. You kind of forgot about that. You bypassed Utah.
Yeah, 2 50-point games. Was it his fault? Was it his fault, Riv? Was it his fault?
I let you talk. I let me go.
All right, I want to know, was it his fault? Answer that question. Yes or no?
You blow a 3-1 lead, it's everybody's fault. Let's just be honest.
Bojan Bogdanovic did not play.
And they were up 3-1.
Come on. All you had to do was win one game.
He had 2 50-point games in that series. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Everybody's fault.
Joel, how are you defending a blown 3-1 lead? It's impossible.
It's impossible. Maybe he gets 20% blame, but he gets blamed. He undoubtedly gets blamed. You blow a 3-1 lead, it's the whole team's fault. You didn't want to mention Dallas versus Utah because you forgot that Jalen Brunson got his contract because he was cooking Donovan Mitchell. That was one of the guys he was absolutely
and Conley.
Yeah, but both of them, backcourt, 6-1, those 2 guys. cooking both of them religiously. You didn't want to mention that series also because Donovan Mitchell was a complete cone, and he also didn't play well on the offensive end because Dorian Finney-Smith had him in hell. You didn't want to mention that. But I will say Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, that's a good starting five. Good lineup. Mitch Robinson, he gets hurt a lot. You didn't mention that, but we're gonna let you sleep off.
All he mentioned was how great of a defender he was, lob threat. Not a mention.
You mentioned D Rose, he gets hurt a lot too. You mentioned two guys.
Mitchell Robinson played 72 games this past season. Next.
That's what I didn't know he played 72 games.
Oh man. Keep going.
But playoff lock, that's tough because I like Toronto as a team. I like us as a team. I like the Hawks as a team. I wouldn't necessarily say y'all are a lock. I can't say that. But I can definitely say you will make the playoffs. But a lock is in terms of being a top 6 seed. I can't necessarily call you that right
now. You said how you're not worried about the 6-1 backcourt, but I have to be completely honest. I don't like it not one bit. Not one bit. I get it. They're a strong duo when it comes to scoring the basketball. Donovan Mitchell is one of the better scorers in the league. Jalen Brunson, up-and-coming scorer in this league. I just don't see how defensively this is beneficial to your guys' squad. 100% I agree. This is an offensive league for sure in the regular season, which is why there's a possibility you guys will make the playoffs. I don't disagree with that statement. However, come playoff time, right? Let's say it's the playing game and you guys aren't the playoff lock because that's 1 through 6. But now you're in that 7 to 10 category and you're facing the Cavaliers maybe. You're facing an Atlanta Hawks. I don't know. Atlanta Hawks maybe, but DeJounte Murray might change the landscape of their defense. Who knows? I worry about that 6-1 tandem. I feel like that's a fair statement to make. Donovan Mitchell's an amazing ball player, but Riv just rattled off a series of events that Donovan Mitchell was not beneficial in. His offensive game, you can't deny it, but the lack of size and his inability to play defense at a high level
He's an offensive juggernaut.
Is a concern. Now, we've spoken, and we're going to speak about later about the top 10 young cores. Yes, you have RJ, who's the most important piece, and you don't want to lose RJ, but you lose Grimes. Is there really, you're losing Obi, who you and I have spoken about potentially coming in to take Julius Randle's spot. I would be more open to getting rid of Randle and trying to get Obi in there to continue his developmental process. I just don't know if it's worth giving up the 6 picks, giving up that young core for a guard who is the same size as the guard you just signed in free agency. That's my concern.
Man. So I this is what I did when I heard about this and like, are they a lock? Like, and y'all kind of talked about, but I just want to really look over it again. We already have the lock. It's Heat, Celtics, Bulls, and the Sixers. We're all in agreement on that.
Heat, Celtics,
Bucks, not the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Hell no.
The Heat, the Celtics, the Bucks, and the Sixers are locked for top 4.
Mm-hmm.
Raptors, is it guaranteed that the Knicks are going to be better than the Raptors with Scotty Barnes coming back another year being better?
Come on.
Talking
about the Raptors here.
Pascal Siakam being there.
Raptors for a 5th seed.
Who's better, Donovan Mitchell or Pascal Siakam?
After that, who's it better? Let's do it. Do you really want to break down the roster?
Yeah, let's do it.
Who's Donovan Mitchell? Who do you have that's better than their 5?
Who's better, Jalen Brunson or Fred VanVleet?
It's the same. It's literally the same. It's the same.
Oh, okay. All right.
Same tier.
We're talking about the same one that was hitting big shots on Curry and Clay and KD to win a championship.
And Brunson was hitting big shots on Curry and Clay when they faced him in the conference finals.
In the championship.
It was a 5-game series. Talk about big shots.
He averaged 18. Fred VanVleet was a bench player. Fred VanVleet was a bench player. What about this past season? Fred VanVleet versus Sixers. He didn't even show up.
He was hurt.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell on a bad ankle averaged 30 on the Clippers. Next.
That's Donovan Mitchell.
Next.
We're talking about Jalen Brunson.
Let's go. Let's go. Primetime players perform while hurt. Next. Let's go.
Joel, you can talk with a lot of confidence. That's fine. Who's it really like? I'm not feeling
better.
that.
RJ Barrett or Fred VanVleet? It's RJ. RJ Barrett to Scotty Barnes. It's RJ. Julius Randle is better than everybody outside of Siakam on that team.
Joel,
Yo,
on, bro.
you got to stop talking like Julius Randle's a scrub. He's not a scrub. He's the guy who's been averaging 19 to 24 points per game in the last 4 seasons of his career. Let's not act like Julius Randle's some scrub.
But are you talking confidently about Julius Randle off of the 2021 season, or are you talking about off of this past season?
I'm talking confidently about him in totality.
You see breaking up. You see yourself breaking up. You see yourself
now he has help. He didn't have help last year. Like,
listen.
Drew, you want to mention Knicks?
Joel. Time out. Let me just make sure before you finish your statement. I just got to go and let you know, okay? Because I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Julius Randle does not need help. Julius Randle is the help. Let's just make sure.
I love that statement.
We keep this like
I love that statement. Yeah,
that's valid.
He is the help. He doesn't need the help. He is the help.
Mitchell's a superstar if we get him. He's the guy.
Facts.
RJ is the 2, Randall's the 3, Brunson's the 4.
So you paid Brunson to be a 4th.
You paid Lonzo to be a 4th. Who cares? Let's move on.
But then Lonzo get paid like $90 million or something.
He got paid $20 million a year.
For how many years?
To get hurt.
Brunson got paid more than him.
He got paid. Brunson's contract goes down every year. By the last year of his contract, he's going to be getting paid $23 million a year.
But let's also look at it from this perspective as well with Lonzo and the Brunson thing. Lonzo's value is way more important than Brunson's is because at the end of the day, Brunson is still a 6'6" shooting guard, point guard, whatever you want to call him, and he is going to score the basketball in a good situation because he was next to Luka, so he didn't have to run the point guard as much. Whereas Lonzo is really 6'7", he's a pass first type of point guard, and he does guard multiple positions. So he can play on the ball and off the ball offensively because he's worked on his shot, and defensively we already know what he can do. So even if Lonzo did get paid, Lonzo is worth more than Jalen, even if Jalen is putting up 28 points a game or whatever the numbers are. My thing is, to go back to the I think that the Cavaliers are going to for sure be in the playoffs this upcoming year.
Yeah, I like that.
So I'm looking at Heat, Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Raptors, and the Cavs, and then from there we're talking about the Bulls, who could be back just if they're healthy. If they're just healthy, they're gonna be back because they were a good team this past year. So now we're talking about the Nets, the Hawks, or possibly the Knicks. And if the Nets stay together, then I expect them to at least get into the playoffs. Because if you want to talk about scoring, there's nobody on this earth for real that is going to score the ball on the level of Kyrie or Kevin Durant, regardless of what happened to them in the Eastern Conference playoffs. So if we want to get into a scoring match, Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson are not going to outscore them. And then we're going to talk about, yes, they're both 6'1" point guards. If you can't outscore Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum, then we already know you're not going to outscore other teams at a high level, because that right there showed us small guards together are not going to work long term. And those are some of the most incredible scores that are in the NBA in Dame and CJ McCollum. And we just have to simply talk about the idea of, is it going to mix together? Is it really going to mix together? Because we saw Julius Randle have a lot of temper tantrums being thrown throughout the playoffs not during the playoffs, but
in the regular season when he was booing the fans.
Right, throughout the regular season where, he wasn't getting his calls, he wasn't getting shots, he started forcing the issue more. He started looking as if, I'm the superstar of this team and I'm supposed to be taking these shots and making these shots. And like I said before, he's not the person who needs help. He is the help. So when you put that, and then you put Donovan Mitchell, and then you put Jalen Brunson, are we going to get the same Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell that we saw in these past seasons together along with Julius Randle? No. And I know you talked about how they didn't play great, or you said with the Jazz, you said that Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell didn't get outscored that much. I know you want to say that, they had Rudy Gobert, but people regard Rudy Gobert as the best center in the NBA. Defensively. Hell no, nothing else other than defense. Nothing else but defense. But we can't pretend like having an incredible defensive acre like that in your front court does not get rid of a lot of blemishes. Now, is Mitchell Robinson a solid center? Sure, but he's not on the level of Rudy Gobert, not even in the slightest.
He's not an elite defender. He's a great one, though.
But an elite defender is what kept 2 6'1" point guards from getting outscored by 40. So a great one is going to get outscored by how much?
I don't know. I really don't know, because
enough. I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the answer. Enough for them to not be a lock.
What you also failed to mention is that we have better perimeter defenders than the Jazz. RJ Barrett is a better defender. He has more size than Royce O'Neal. Julius Randle, I can count on being a better defender than Bojan Bogdanovic. That's a fact. Julius Randle is in his all NBA season was a great defender because he showcased passion on that side. Julius Randle had to be the guy in the all NBA season. This past season, he tried to repeat that season, but we know he's not that guy. Now he is going to be relegated into a role that's going to make him more efficient. It's going to give him pick and roll partners in Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell to get easier shots, to get open shots. We talk about the guard thing. You mentioned Portland. Well, yeah, a team like that won't succeed because their starting forwards were Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu. No team is succeeding like that. With the Knicks, RJ Barrett and Julius Randle, significant upgrade over those two forwards.